Hi folks, we are at Monday. Welcome to a new week. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your week and that you've had a very good weekend. We had an amazing prize draw yesterday where somebody walked away with £50 worth of free models from Composite Games. Well done to you, sir. And next month, start of August, we will be doing another prize draw. Hurrah! And we're going to be making sure that next month is going to be bigger in terms of prizes. We will have £50 worth of models from Composite Games to give away and a Dark Angels Deathwing Command box set there, ready for you to take away as a prize. The prizes may get more towards the time, depending on what I can source and from where, but those are the prizes right now. If you want to be involved, all you need to do is be a member of the Patreon down below, or become a member of the channel that is also down below. Either way, you are committing money to the channel to help us keep the lights on. And yesterday, thank you very, very, very much to all of the absolute legends who gave to our fundraiser. That was for Men's Mental Health Movember. That was awesome of you. Thank you very much. We've got to keep these charities going and make sure that they have all of the capacity to go and help bros wherever they can. So thank you very, very much. Now, getting on with some hobby nightmares. Dave says, "Hi North. This isn't the worst hobby nightmare, but it is a story I can share after listening to you for months. Over Christmas this past year, my girlfriend and I randomly played a few games of one-page rules, and I quickly fell in love with the idea of wargaming. Yeah, mate, that's what one-page rules are for. That is definitely what one-page rules are for. They are there to make sure that you cut out all of the bullshit, all of the nonsense that's involved in 40k these days, even 10th edition, and you boil it down to a really, really cool game. And you play it. I love one-page rules. I've been really enjoying them. I'm a big convert, so yeah, go for it. If you're worried about the complexity of 40k, go and get one-page rules. They're free online. Go and get them. Go and play with them. You'll have a lot of fun. My interest for the hobby quickly outpaced my girlfriend's, okay? I was buying and painting models while she was perfectly content to play with her rubber ducky proxies. Picture included. I won't show that, but fine, no worries. Since around March of this year, I've been slowly building up a 2,000 point Tau army to eventually play big boy Warhammer 40k. A few days ago, I went to my friendly local game store so I could spray paint some primer in the back of the store. As this was my second time ever in the store, I asked the store employee where I could go, and they led me to a back door and an alleyway to have at it. Okay, cool. When you say have at it, I hope he's not propositioning you for you to be able to use the place to spray, but, you know. 30 minutes later, I'm happily spray painting my Tau crisis suits, and I hear someone behind me yell out, "Filthy Tau." I'm not entirely shocked by this, because I was gluing, because while I was gluing my models, and sometimes my hands together over the past few months, I listened to quite a few lore, books and podcasts, so I understood the lore reasons why I'm currently experiencing space racism. Ah, that's such a good way of putting it. Space racism. I love it. Why I'm currently experiencing space racism. I also went to a large state university where athletics was a big part of student life, so I'm no stranger to friendly shit-talking other people's teams. Okay, cool. Sorry, taking a sip of tea. I gave a big laugh and asked him what faction he plays, hoping to start a conversation about my new obsession and make my first Warhammer friend. He just replies, "I only serve the Emperor," then completely walks off and goes back to the store before I have time to process. That was the entire interaction. I laughed to myself at what had just happened. I went back to getting slightly high off of paint fumes. Now, luckily, a 35-year-old male who considers himself to be somewhat socially well-adjusted, this doesn't bother me. Actually, Filthy Tau and I Only Serve the Emperor have now become memes with my girlfriend and me. However, I feel like if I was a younger or a bit more socially anxious, this would have soured me on this new wonderful hobby. You frequently talk about being kind to new players, and I think this was an example of what not to do. Teasing me about playing my army didn't bother me. It was the entire lack of follow-up conversation or any attempt to make social connection that really did. I have gone back to the store and haven't had anything close to the same experience, but I will definitely always remember being called a filthy Tau in a back alley. Cheers, fake name Dave. Okay, so yeah, you are right. You're completely right in the way that you're going about this. You know, him giving you shit because of the army that you play isn't a bad thing at all. It happens, and it should happen. We all should be having fun here. We all should be, you know, generally ribbing each other all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. When it does cross the line is when you are nasty about something and then it's not treated as a joke and you just walk away from the interaction, so that person doesn't have any sort of recourse to, you know, to make a hobby friend, you know? Also, I'm afraid, dude, I think you've just come across one of the weirdos in the hobby. Unfortunately, this hobby is full of absolute neckbeard weirdos. I'm gonna say it. I don't care how many nice things people on YouTube say about you as a hobby base. Some of y'all are just weird. And I think a lot of you are standing there making your dinner right now, driving home from work, you're on the train, whatever, and you're nodding along going, yep. Yep, I've known a lot of people just like this, who take the hobby far too seriously, who think the lore's kind of real in some weird way. There was a guy at the bar I used to work at, and whenever I'd go in there for like a drink on my day off or whatever, he would literally say, instead of God or whatever, he'd say, oh, Emperor bless him, and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, mate, don't say that in normal conversation, expect to get laid. It's not going to happen, right? And if you don't care about that, that's fine, but dude, you're weird. Can you not do that, please? It's not real. It's not real. You don't need to say things like that. It's kind of what I said in the Mordy and Glory video the other day when I was like, there are people at Games Workshop who will email you and say, sorry I was off, I had Nurgle's rot. No, you didn't. You had a fucking cold, Steve. Get on with it, son. Right? You had a cold. Grow up. Right? And this is the kind of guy we're talking about. Takes it far too seriously. Goes out of his way to rage at people who don't do the hobby in the same way that he does. That's a weirdo. And I'm sorry, they do occur in the hobby. They occur in any hobby. But we're doing 40k here. You know, we're doing Warhammer here, as we always do. So, yeah. I'm afraid you just came across one. And it shows what a nice hobby is, that you came across one straight away and you haven't since, Dave. So there you go, mate. There you go. All good. Moving on. Bob says, hey, North. Very quick one here, as I don't have a lot of time to write this out. I'm moving to a new apartment at the moment. Okay, cool. Good for you. The reason I'm moving is my girlfriend, Jen. Oh, here we go. I met her at a Comic-Con 2 years ago, and things have been pretty great. But, cutting to the chase, they didn't stay that way. You see, she does not like Warhammer, like, at all. She tells me it is a hobby for incels and guys who hate women. Wow, she seems like a laugh and a half. Whenever we get into an argument, because there is something I want to do, like go to Warhammer Fest or spend time rolling dice with my friends, she attacks my manhood by telling me I'm pathetic for wanting to spend time with them rather than actually getting laid at home. I mean, she has a point, I guess, but this has really started to bug me as I've recently started therapy and my therapist was rather alarmed, shall we say, when I explained Jen's behaviour. I'm going to tell you now, I'm going to rip into this woman in a minute, but I'm going to finish this. It's only one more paragraph, so I'm going to finish it and then come back to it. We are moving apartment at the moment because it's what she wanted to do. I don't really care. I'm earning the money in the relationship. She earns next to nothing. The new place is in my name. I have an amazing job working for an awesome game studio here in Santa Monica. So, what should I do? Not all things with Jen are bad. Some of our times are amazing, and outside of that behaviour quirk, she does her best to support me. She's hot and intelligent, we have similar senses of humour, my friends tell me I'm lucky to be with her, so, what the fuck gives? Cheers, Bob. Okay. So, I'm glad that apartment's in your name, because the advice I'm about to give you is sometimes you got to give medicine straight. Sometimes medicine's got to come at you straight, man. I'm really sorry about this, but yeah, you need to get rid of this woman. She needs to be gone, because at the end of the day, there'll be guys up there who are saying, "What? You can't say that about somebody else's relationship." Well, actually, I can, because I've been in this situation, and it never works out well. Eventually, you will end up snapping, telling her to fuck off, and you'll end up being the bad guy. She'll twist everything round on you, and you'll end up in an argument, and by and large, you know, she will get away scot-free, and you'll be the left holding the bag, right? So, I'm afraid. Okay, if you're listening to this and you're a lady, okay, and you don't do things like this, congratulations. And that's not me being facetious. I'm actually saying, literally, congratulations. That's amazing. Well done, you. Right? If you don't do this, this is a woman tactic. This is a woman tactic. If you do something that annoys them, or you hurt their feelings in any way, they will go for your manhood, as you just said. They will try and attack you, your very nature of being a man. Like, a real man wouldn't do that. A real man would do this. Like, they know what a real man would do, because they're not men, they don't know, right? So, it is what it is. As soon as a woman pulls this card, if you're not married to her, as soon as a woman pulls this card, walk away. Walk away. Because as soon as she does it once, she'll do it again, and again, and again, and again. She'll browbeat you, she'll moan, she'll bitch, she'll whine, right? She will do that all the time to stop you doing the things that you like, to stop you living life how you want to live it. Especially, dude, Bob, come on, man. You're earning the money in this relationship. She goes where you say she goes, right? If you're earning the... Same the other way around, by the way. If the woman's earning the money, and if a guy wants to move apartment, and he's earning no money, and the woman's earning all the money, he doesn't get a fucking say. I'm sorry, he doesn't, right? Like, now, if you're moving anyway, then sure, he gets a say where he wants to live, no problem. But he doesn't get to just tell her to move and what to do with her money. Same with you, Bob. Why are you moving apartments? Because it's what she wants to do. It's your money, it's your life, you do what you want to do. If she wants to be of equal value with you, if she wants to input into the relationship in the way that you do, she needs to earn similar amount of money, and then you can make balanced, fair decisions between you. What you're doing right now is you're acquiescing to her every need and wish, and so she thinks that she can do whatever she wants. I'm sorry. You play games with your friends, my friend, alright? Do not let this woman harangue you, do not let this woman chip away at your manhood and your sense of self-worth. Do not let her do that. And as soon as any partner does this, as soon as they attack who you are, your sense of being as a man, right? Because you want to spend time with your friends and in your hobbies, kick them to the curb, get them in the fucking sea. Straight away. This is the one behaviour where you don't get a second chance. As soon as you exhibit this behaviour, gone. Dunzo. Bye. In the sea. Off you go. That's a toxic person. I don't use the word toxic a lot. Okay? I think the last time I truly used it was in the Pirate King video months ago. Like a month ago or something like that. Right? 5-6 weeks ago. This is a toxic person. Get her out. I don't care how nice she is to you, beyond telling you what to do with your free time, or what to do with your money. Get this person out your life. Okay? There's no excuse for this. Absolutely no excuse. Especially when you're the one earning all the money. We had a guy a while ago who wasn't earning the money, the way the woman was earning all the money, so we had to be very diplomatic and say, look, you know, she's got reasons for behaving like this. And I came down on her side a little bit, right? In this instance, no. Bob, you're earning all the money, mate. You're running this relationship. You're earning the money. You're making sure that you've got a roof over your heads. You do with your time whatever the fuck you want to do. If you want to fly to the UK to go to Warhammer Fest, do it. Do it and leave her behind. Leave this miserable bitch behind. That's what you should do. Alright? I don't care how nice she is to you outside of criticising your friends and your hobbies and any form of happiness that you have that doesn't involve her. That's the problem. It doesn't involve her. Anything that doesn't involve her is somehow an issue. That's shitty, man. Do not marry this woman. Do not marry this woman. Walk away. Give her an ultimatum. If you really need to stay with her, if you really like her, give her an ultimatum. This behaviour changes, or I walk. And you get the fuck out of my apartment because it's in my name. How about that? This situation changes, or you're gone. Do it. Be very clear about what you expect. Alright, moving on. Josco says, Dear North, thank you for filling my days with nightmares. You're welcome. You're welcome. You are truly doing the Emperor's work out there and it's appreciated. No problem, man. The surest way to battle cringe-inducing behaviour, after all, is to drag it into the light. I have a very recent experience to offer up for addition to your library of hobby horror. Strap in, because it's a long one with 3 parts, okay? Anyway, here's a short intro. I first started the hobby in 2020, a couple of months before 9th edition. I dove headlong into the hobby aspect and have been feverishly building and painting ever since. Because I didn't want to put a Grey Legion on the table and also take forever to consider models finished, until very recently, I have only painted a handful or only played a handful of games. That said, I've consumed a ton of lore videos, bat reps, tactics, and strategy breakdowns, hobby nightmare stories, etc. I tried to keep up to date on the game, even though I was mostly just building and painting. Okay, cool. No, I like that. That's alright. Nothing wrong with that. On the rare occasion I have been able to play, I discovered I'm very much in the dice tell stories camp. It's a game after all, and I just enjoy the hell out of seeing my voice today, I'm really sorry, okay. And I just enjoy the hell out of seeing beautiful models on the table and directing them as best I can. What they do once I issue orders is out of my direct control. I mainly play Death Guard in 40k, and finally started to work on Heresy Death Guard, which turned out to be a good call considering the way 40k Death Guard is looking right now. The Heresy system caught my eye early on, but until Age of Darkness dropped, the local Horus Heresy scene was non-existent or just well hidden. Probably well hidden, dude, knowing what they're like. I didn't want to go balls deep building a whole new army since I lacked people to play with. However, all that changed after a recent trip to my local game store, and thus begins our tale. Alright. I met a member, apparently the chief organiser of the local heresy group. We'll call him Alfarius. We struck up a conversation, as we were both shopping at our friendly local game store. He invited me to join their Horus Heresy group, and as they didn't have a Death Guard player, I enthusiastically agreed. A few days later, we met up and played an intro game using only his models. I wasn't expecting a game, but I was happy to participate. Now, I mentioned I keep up with the game. That includes Heresy too, as I'm an average Death Guard enjoyer. That means I know a good chunk of their rules, despite never having actually played or even painted a Heresy model at the time. But no amount of memorising rules or learning tactics could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. Alright. Alright, part 1. 2 possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the game store or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Okay. No worries. I like the subtitle. That's pretty cool. Alfarius divided forces up evenly, with a couple of squads of tactical marines each, a squad of cataphracti terminators each, etc. We set up on a standard 5-objective game board, with the centre objective on top of one of those ferrotonic furnace terrain pieces. Okay, cool. I hate the way Games Workshop say certain words or type them out. Ferrotonic. Shut your face. I was playing with Death Guard rules while he was playing Alpha Legion. At one point, I forgot to move one of my tactical squads toward a corner objective and was already in the shooting phase, but said as much out loud and declared I was not going to move it as I should have known better. He did not flinch and allowed me to continue shooting. This was the first thing I thought was a bit off. I didn't mind not moving the Marines, but expected minor pushback and him telling me to just go right ahead. Let's be honest, it's just a game. This was my first game of Heresy after all. No biggie, game continues. I reached the centre objective before he did, with my brick of 10 cataphracti and praetor. I was able to get toe-to-toe on the objective on turn 1, and fully moved up to occupy the furnace the next turn. He was 1 turn behind me, but my terminators body blocked him and kept him on the bridge leading up to the furnace. All my squad had to do was to hold the whole game and with the centre objective, and it was mine. After a turn of shooting, I lost a Terminator, and removed the model from the back of my brick. When the fight phase hits, he kills 2 of my big boys, and then he removes 2 of my Terminators, which were body blocking his unit from getting on the objective. You read that right. I said, hey, these dudes down here, can I just lose those? I'd rather not lose the guys in the front. He says, oh yeah, you can move those forward some, I don't mind. Yeah, that wasn't my question, dude. Okay. He immediately piles in with his Terminators and puts 2 in the space vacated by my dead ones, now contesting the objective. Okay. Okay. So we've got the worst kind of hobbyist here, guys. The worst kind. I'll explain why in a second. Okay. He's the worst kind of hobbyist because he's not technically cheating. He's not technically doing anything uber terrible. But he's being a bad sport. And he's kind of min-maxing a game with a beginner who doesn't really know the rules that well, even though he says he kind of does. Let's be honest, if you're a beginner, you're still getting stuff wrong, and you want to be having a good game for your first game. This guy is playing the game of Warhammer, sure, but he's not playing the game. Do you know what I mean? Anyway. Now at this point, I'm wondering if maybe Heresy had some kind of rule that models in the front during the fight phase have to die first, or that under certain conditions, casualties are removed by the opposing player. I was new, and so had no idea. My unit didn't have to fall back, but I thought surely he knew the rules better than I, so I let it go after asking. Next, he was firing some plasma cannons at a group of my tacticals on another objective, and I opted to respond using the evade reaction. This is a core reaction, similar to Overwatch or command reroll in 40k, which every army has access to. By default, you get 1 reaction per opponent's phase. The evade reaction gives you a save that's the same as being shrouded, but Alfarius insisted I could not use this because I didn't have shroud bombs, quote unquote, on my units. He said it was a special Alpha Legion piece of equipment. This puzzled me, as I didn't understand why a core reaction was something that only the Alpha Legion could use. Spoiler, if you're looking this up, this was bullshit, and it wouldn't be the last. Yeah, so now he's just outwardly cheating. Okay. Okay, so he's gone into the second worst form of hobbyist. He is now just openly cheating. Because open cheats, at least, the reason why a shrouded cheater is worse is an open cheat, at least you can call as bullshit and never play him again and not be accused of being salty. But if someone's being a bad sport and is ruining your game by doing bullshit like removing your models so you can get on an objective before you can say anything, right? Because he knows that for you to say anything, you're going to escalate the situation into a disagreement that you might not want to do. He's basically bitching you out. He's ensuring that you don't get to do what you want to do because to challenge what he's doing that would end up in an argument. Okay? That's the worst kind of 40k player. The second worst kind of 40k player, but, you know, let's be honest, terrible, is an open cheater. And that's what this guy is turning into now. So what he's done here, his first bit of cheating, or his first bit of bad sportsmanship, was him testing the waters. He's bitching you out, right? He's trying to see if you're a bitch, if you're actually going to put up with it or not, right? And because you did put up with it, he then goes to DEFCON 2. Open cheating, right? He will push and push and push until you push back. Let's see how this goes. So, warning sirens are going off in my head now, and something I hoped I had imagined became very obvious now that I was paying attention. We had a shortage of dice. As a result, dice which were being used to mark wounds on his units kept being swept up and used for rolls, never to be replaced. The first time I thought this happened was when he charged my Terminators in the centre. I knew I'd done several wounds on their way in, but when they charged, his unit seemed super healthy. As in, he said 11 guys were shooting the turn his Terminators charged mine, and the starting size of his squad was 10 plus a Praetor, or should have been. I think he didn't remove models following a round of shooting or something while I wasn't looking. As I was now paying attention, I caught at least one more case of this, of his Terminators magically regenerating a wound, for a total of 3, I suspected, and his Dreadnought repairing itself from 2 wounds to 3 wounds. I called this last one out, and he immediately agreed, saying he forgot a las cannon wound. Okay, so this is what I mean. So he's throwing so many cheats out there that when you catch one, it doesn't really matter, because for all 10 cheats you threw, you caught 1, 9 still passed through the net. So he goes, "Oh yeah, I'm really sorry about that, dude. Yeah, I just forgot. Sorry about that." Right? And carries on. Dude, this guy is a seasoned cheater. This guy is a pro cheater. It took one of his tactical squads all game to get on a corner objective, and he didn't even control it for a full turn. His tactical squad was routed off of another objective. This gave me control of 2 objectives for most of the game, and him, 0 to 1. Depending on when you checked, or would've, had the middle one not been contested due to him taking the duty of removing my models upon himself, what a bro. Yeah, I know, dude, I know. Anyway, when he calculated the final point total, he barely edged me out by 2 points. I'd only lost 1 unit and had superior board control, having won the objective, game running away. After he arrived at a point total, he said for my first game it was pretty good. A little rough around the edges, but don't worry, because I lost my first several games in a row. To be completely clear, I expected to be absolutely bodied if we were playing properly. I was there to learn the rules, not to win, but as the game unfolded, I realised I had the game in hand. Whether he was intentionally letting me win and being slow to move toward objective, or just generally being relaxed in his play, I thought maybe he was trying to pull punches to give the new guy a win. I've done that myself while teaching my nephews, just as the friend who taught me 40k did back in the day. Oh, how wrong I was. Despite all this, I was playing a new game and still had fun. It's hard to have a bad day playing Warhammer after all. We grabbed lunch and chatted, and a few days later set a 4-person meetup over the weekend at his place. Okay. This story goes on for quite a while, so I'll read the next part, and then the final part I'll read in the next Hobby Nightmare, okay? Because we're getting on for time already. Right, part 2A. Where we're going, you won't need rules to play, okay? We're going to Alfarius' house, ladies and gentlemen. I rolled up to Alfarius' place and unload into his back door. What? Some of you guys need to read these over before you send them to me. I rolled up to Alfarius' place and unload into his back door. Let's just say I rolled up to Alfarius' place and I knocked on his back door. No problem. Still sounds a bit weird, but we'll go with it. We chatted and hung out for a bit, then set upstairs for the 4-way. It was a grand farewell game for 40k 9th edition. A free-for-all, 5 objectives, 1 in each deployment zone and 1 in the centre. Alfarius was piloting Necrons, and I was in the opposite corner on Death Guard. Occupying the short side with me was Night Guy on Imperial Knights, and short side with Alfarius was the Space Marine player we'll call Sanguinius. I wonder why. The opening was a little weird, as when we explained our armies, Alfarius said he had a stratagem which allowed him to resurrect his whole army for 1 command point. Oh, piss off. Just take out your models, dude, and walk out. As soon as it starts, just walk out. But nah, I'm not doing this with you again, dude. Sorry. I'm not doing this with you again. Now, I assumed he was exaggerating and it gave him a +1 to reanimation protocols or something. But he used this to suggest we not use stratagems at all and adopt the heresy-like reaction system instead. This got a general reaction of, what? And we decided to compromise and only use stratagems for rerolls. Night Guy and I fired mostly at each other, but we exchanged pot shots with the other side of the board. Turn 2, the game was largely in my control. I got a very lucky 12-inch charge on Sanguinius, and one-shot Night Guy's armature with my Lord of Contagion after deep striking all of my Death Shroud onto the centre objective, and almost certainly putting the game out of reach. Alfarius and Sanguinius were cut up pretty badly. Night Guy's closest unit was 2 turns away from the centre, and I was only down 3 Poxwalkers. Given it's the last time I planned to play 40k Death Guard for a long time, I took it as a fun treat and reminder of past glories, I guess. Unfortunately, all was not well on the other side of the board. Alfarius had attached his Scorpek Lord to his Scorpek destroyers, which made them nearly impossible for Sanguinius to chew through. I didn't notice this unit until it was too late, and had a WTF moment. No one, aside from Alfarius and I, knew much about 9th edition. Sanguinius seemed frustrated, and said something about not thinking leaders could attach to units. Yeah, they can't until 10th. That was the big thing about 10th. Is your guys can now attach to units. They can't in 9th. Alfarius said he was sure that they could, and then fell back on 8th edition rules, saying he knew they could back then. Sanguinius said he'd watched through the back reps to know leaders couldn't attach to squads. I confirmed that they could not, and haven't been able to do so for the past 2 editions at least. With confirmation his opponent was pulling some shenanigans, I could feel Sanguinius tilting towards the Black Rage. I tried to give Alfarius an out, saying he probably saw HQs moving with the units to get protection from Lookout Sir and to dish out auras. Ah, good on you, man, so you're giving him a way out. No problem. Everybody accepted this and moved on. But that wasn't all. Alfarius, I observed, had been making resurrection rolls using only a single dice, saying anything, even his Triarch Stalker, could regenerate by passing a single dice check. 9th edition Necrons have to roll 1 die for each wound on a model, and can only bring back a model if they roll enough passes to pay for the whole model. 7 wound model means you need to roll 7 dice and need 7 passes, etc. Nurgle be praised. Hilariously, he failed every single resurrection roll until the very end. I guess karma is a bit of a bitch. He tried to claim warriors had 2 wounds, but I corrected him, and that went unchallenged afterward. Okay. By now, I was thinking it was going to be a long night, since I had to watch this guy like a hawk, and it was already wearing me out. Yeah, dude, this is... Sensing the game had gotten away from him, Alfarius then suggested we call the game here and move on to Heresy, which is why we were all there anyway, according to him. We had just finished turn 2. Sanguinius expressed minor annoyance that we'd only gotten through 2 turns, and Alfarius already wanted to call it. Yeah, it's because he can't win, dude. It's because he can't win. But he also made a comment about not missing 40k at all. Alfarius did another of his patented point calculations, and found that he just barely edged me out by 1 point again. Crazy, right? Interestingly, of the 4 of us, Alfarius was the only one not on an objective at this time. I pointed out that he had lost his Triarch Stalker and didn't get his objective last turn. He relented reluctantly and said that meant he and I tied. At this point, wow, had all 3 players ganged up on me, it would have been a pretty even match, and I had 2 objectives. That was the model count on the table. He tried to claim points for killing units or something, even though we weren't playing with secondaries. Sanguinius mentioned I had just destroyed an armiger and was in the process of wiping out some of his intercessors. Alfarius then suggested rolling a die for it, and with a massive shit-eating grin on my face, I told him to go ahead and roll. It was at this very moment when I realised I was living in a hobby nightmare story, and mentally committed to sending you this story. My logic was, if it comes up in my favour, I avoid a confrontation, and if it comes up in his favour, I have to get in his face and directly call him out as a cheater. For the sake of a fun evening, I hope for it to come up in my favour. And it does. 9th edition gets a good send-off, and fun was had all around. But the night was not over. Oh my god, dude. This guy is a real piece of work. Alright, I'm going to leave that there for now. I'm going to come back a bit later on, where we're going to be going over the last bit of his story, because this is getting to be... Actually, no, bollocks to it. Bollocks to it. Never Say North doesn't do anything for you. I will read the rest of this story. Alright? But I'm taking a sip of cup of tea first. Yeah, if this gets bad, this is going to be really funny. Alright. Let's go. Part 2b. I'm not reading that, it's in Latin. We set up for a game of heresy, and with it, attitude refresh. Okay. Sanguinius is in his element now, presumably because he's not dead yet. And Night Guy is just happy to be there. As Night Guy and I are new, Sanguinius, Blood Angels, and Alfarius, Loyalist Alpha Legion, team up against Night Guy, Iron Warriors with Knight Support, and me, Death Guard. Sanguinius is a massive help, and to his credit, Alfarius, to be fair, also makes suggestions on how best to deploy, considering which troops can score, etc. Alfarius makes use of his Warlord trait to redeploy a couple of units prior to Churn 1 kicking off. Okay, whoops. As we traitors won the role. Remember this, it will be important later. Both Loyalist players are planning huge drops with big chunks of their armies. There are only 2 objectives, one in each deployment zone, and otherwise I think we scored by playing Slay the Warlord. In the middle of the table is a big box to break up the line of sight. Alfarius puts his scouts with Nemesis sniper bolters in there. The first turn is uneventful, but turn 2 is where the fun starts. I have a squad of Cataphracti Terminators and my brand new Death Guard Praetor in Cataphracti armour riding in the Spartan party bus down the south side of the board, and get it in a position to deploy my decked out squad of big boys right into the expensive stuff. From my Spartan's perspective, left to right, you have the south side of the board, a slightly elevated bit of terrain where the troops with troops up there, a now dead Rhino, which turned into a terrain in Heresy instead of being removed like in 40k. Sanguinius' Leviathan, Alfarius' kitted out squad of Volkite Culverins, which he'd been hyping up all game, and the centre building. The Volkite squad is sandwiched between the Leviathan and the terrain, and behind them is a medium-sized patch of rough terrain, one of those piles of junk from the Octarius set. Okay. I deploy my Terminator squad, and Alfarius reacts, moving his troops back the full 7 inches, allowed plus another 5 or so bonus inches, moving most of his squad behind the rough terrain piece. Now, you may be wondering, doesn't difficult terrain slow movement? Why, yes it does. Yeah, but why is he doing another 5 inches after his 7 as well? But to be clear, this squad was going to die this turn. When my Terminators deployed, they were right at about 1 inches away from his troops, but after this super move, the closest one was about 9 inches away, with some of the rest over a foot away by now. Alright, that's fair enough, that's fair enough. Okay. Sanguinius' ally is grabbing a drink and sees the move. He says, "Are you sure they can move that far?" Alfarius answers that he has to move them that far, as it will be too difficult to balance them on the difficult terrain. He has no choice, you see, and even shakes his head and acts frustrated as if he wishes there was some other way of doing it, but there simply isn't. Sanguinius looks at me and we exchange a knowing glance. Night Guy is about to pass out at this point. This poor guy. This Night Guy is just wanting to sleep. This is why current editions of the game aren't very good, right? It sends you to sleep. After 2 games, you just want to go to bed. In Heresy, if you're deploying and charging from transport like this, you apparently have to shoot the target you intend to charge if you want to shoot at all. My plan was to shoot and then charge the Volkites because they were trapped, then pile in around the Leviathan with my chain fists after the Volkites were dead. With Alfarius deciding it was double movement points day, that forced me into a tough decision. Alfarius tries to talk me into charging Sanguinius' Leviathan, hyping up Volkite and the threat of return fire. I just straight up ignore him and fire everything into his squad. He then decides to tank the shots with his sergeant, who is sporting artificer armour, giving him a 2+ save versus my combi bolters. Alfarius needs to save something like 12 wounds. He would have been rolling more dice, but his illegal move put him out of rapid fire range of some of my Terminators. Terminators which were at most 3 inches away from his troops when they unloaded from the transport. So he rolls all of his saves at once and gets a single 1. He removes his sergeant. I stopped the show right there. Finally, are you finally going to call this guy out? I stop the show right there and say, aren't those rolls supposed to be consecutive? Like, you roll until you get a 1, and then the sergeant dies, and then you roll the rest. Sanguinius, trying to be diplomatic, confirms that normally that's that's the way that it works. No explanation whatsoever is given as to why this would be not be a normal situation, I suppose. Both of us turn to Alfarius, but he is bent over the dice tray, picking up dice and acting like he doesn't hear the exchange. Further shooting removes the troops Alfarius didn't move beyond the difficult terrain, and I can't make the charge. Surprise, surprise. It took cheating not once, but twice, but he saved the squad. It fails morale and heads up for the board edge, which Alfarius actually gets upset over. You cannot make this shit up. Of course you can, man. You can't. I'm not make this shit up, but of course you can. This is a cheater, dude. This is a cheat. This is how they are. This is how they are. When you don't call it out and pick your models and walk away, you deserve everything that you get. You deserve everything. This is your fault. This is your fault, man. You should have picked up your models and walked away. You should have stopped, said, look, I'm not having fun. You're not playing the game in good faith. You're cheating. I'm not playing this. I'm picking up my models. I'm moving away. Goodbye. Right? If you don't do that, you deserve what you get. Moving on. Meanwhile, on the central building, Alfarius still has his snipers in the dead centre of the roof, which he insists can see a unit I have hiding up against the building. I took my tape measure and illustrated there was no way to get line of sight on them. Alfarius says, well, they're on top of the building and so they can see straight down. Sanguinius steps in at this point and says, they can't see anything from there, dude, let's be honest. He moves around to confirm this, and they have an actual discussion about how the box blocks true line of sight. While Alfarius is saying they're snipers on top of the building, they logically should be able to see everything. Alfarius relents and moves his snipers forwards, obviously annoyed. I'm about to find Night Guy a pillow. The poor guy's a trooper. Jesus, dude. This is... Okay. Okay. At this point, Alfarius has already declared his Warlord trait allows an army-wide +1 to hit to shooting. He made a point of talking about how amazing this Warlord trait is. Okay, dude, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. This guy's just cheating and cheating and cheating and cheating, and you're not picking it up, right? I'm going to skip ahead to hopefully a point where you actually call him out on his bullshit, okay? Okay. Okay. It was getting late, so after a round of glorious melee combat to wrap up the latest turn, we elect to call a game there. Alfarius sets to work determining the score. Why are you letting him determine the score? You know... Dude. Alfarius sets to work at determining the score, and I await the news Team Newbie is 1 or 2 points ahead, of course. Honestly, I'm still not sure exactly how we were keeping score. It seemed like a straightforward capture the flag plus slay the Warlord, as it was first explained, but for some reason, it seemed like we were still tracking units killed. Whatever the case, everyone's Warlord was intact, and both of us held our deployment zones for the time being, so we called it a draw. We chatted for a bit, said our goodbyes, and headed home. Dude. I know it probably doesn't sound like it, but I still had lots of fun. As I commit this to writing, I realise people will probably ask, why the hell did you let so much stuff go? Why not just call them on their bullshit or walk away? Fair questions. I've asked the same questions while listening to a lot of these Hobby Nightmare stories. If you're wondering, I guess what I'd say is, in the moment, particularly when you're new, it's easy to second guess yourself. I guess so, yeah. After all, unless you're absolutely certain both of you are right about a rule or datasheet, and the other party is acting in bad faith, is it worth potentially torching your relationship with a new gaming group right from the start? I get that as well. Okay, those points I will take on board. I respect that, yeah. In the case of this particular cheater, he did a really good job of seeming to not be 100% certain on the rules himself, of appearing scatterbrained, or of being so busy teaching he lost track of what was happening. A lot of the clarity I have in regarding the rules now is because I went back and researched a lot of it after the fact. I'd say in the above stories, the true mask-off moment for me was, I just checked the book. That leaves no room for doubt. You're cheating, plain and simple, and you lied to try and win against two brand new players. For me, the biggest part of cheating in a casual game is that it turns a relaxing fun escape into a mentally draining slog. Yeah, exactly. It's so exhausting to have to watch every dice roll, double check every rule, and keep an eye on the tape measure every time it comes out. Ultimately, I'm just glad this happened to me. I'm not a kid who was starting in the hobby. The fact that Alfarius felt comfortable doing this to someone just starting fundamentally bothers me, but I'm not ready to give up on this dude quite yet. All the guys involved here, Alfarius included, were generally fun to hang out with, and there's obvious passion for the hobby on display. If it's possible to salvage the situation, I'd like to try. I'm pretty sure an intervention with Alfarius is inevitable, and I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on how to handle a situation like this. Thanks for reading my novel, and keep on fighting the good fight. Warm regards, Joe. Okay. So, mate, if he's as much of a cool guy as you say, that's fine. I've got no problem with that. If he's as much of a cool guy as you think, the next time this happens, pull him aside. Pull him aside and simply say, listen, mate, I'm going to be quite honest here. I'm starting to not enjoy games with you, and here's why. And lay it out for him. Lay it out in black and white. So you don't really do the rules properly. Every time I check something up, when there's been an issue in the game with you, you're always in the wrong. Right? The rules always say you're in the wrong. So, I'm not enjoying this anymore. And because I'm not enjoying this anymore, I don't think I can play with you anymore. Okay? That's just me. I don't think I can play with you anymore. Unless you change these ways. If you lay it out in a nice way, and you don't just go in there railing and ranting in his face, if you just say, look, dude, this is where I am. You know, we play together all the time, and in each and every single one of these games, some of these rules are wrong, some of the things you do are wrong, and they always seem to benefit you. And I don't want to say it's cheating, but that needs to change. You need to get to know your rules better. If you don't, I can't play you. Because it's starting to mess with my OCD, right? Sorry, just is what it is. You got to play the game in good faith. If you don't, dude, Joe, if you go back to this again and you just let him get away with it and you let him play again and again and again and again and you don't call him out, you deserve everything you get, my friend. You deserve every bit of angst and anger that's coming your way when you go home and you slam your book down and say, I'm never playing this game again. You deserve that. Because you put up with this situation. And by the way, if you put up with it, Joe, you're not doing your due diligence in this hobby. That guy is going to go and do this with other people. And as you just said, imagine him trying this with actual new people who can't take a mental beating in the way that you can. This guy will drive new people away from the hobby. Call him out, do it politely, but call him out and say, listen, I'm going to pick my models up here. I'm not happy with how this is going. I've played many games with you before, and each and every single time we do this, you get rules wrong, and they always seem to be in your favour when you get them wrong. Dude, you need to learn your codex, you need to learn the rules, or I can't play this game with you. It's starting to really mess with my OCD and my enjoyment of the hobby. If you say that in a polite way, but stern way, say, look, this is where I am. For now, I'm conceding this game to you, because I'm no longer having fun. I'm going to pick up my models, okay? And shake his hand and walk away. Walk away. No hobby is worth the aggro. Hobbies are supposed to be relaxing, fun spaces to be in. And the minute they start giving you stress, and this will start, the minute they start giving you stress, leave that group and go and find one that's better suited for you. There will be one. I'm telling you now, there will be one. There's always one out there. Try the Discord for one. But call this behaviour out. Do not let it continue. If you do, you're doing the hobby a disservice, not just yourself. Alright? Cool. that is me for today. I love you all a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for another bit of a long video, bit of a ranty video, but we'll get to it tomorrow. I love you all. I will speak to you later. Have a good one. Bye now.